we are off, I just want to say that I miss you. I feel not as connected to folks lately because, I don't know, after Pod Jam, I kind of slid right back into work and all kinds of things happening here and in my life, and I don't know, I miss you. So I'm excited to see you at tonight's hangout, hopefully connect there and all the other places. I hope that you'll join us if you're a paid subscriber. It is Thursday as I'm talking here, the 18th of April. I will be hosting a hangout at 8 p.m. East. If you're not a subscriber, sign up now and join us tonight. Whether you've ever been there, whether you come and keep your camera off, I'm always so excited when you do. If you haven't been in a while, join us tonight. I welcome you with warmth and open arms, smile and hugs, and I will give you a kiss. I don't know how I will do that virtually, but I will try. So join us tonight, patreon.com/Pete Dominic. If you're somehow not already a subscriber and member of our community, hope to see you there. All right, I've got a great guest joining me today, comedian and commentator, one of the funniest and smartest. I absolutely love him. Maz Jobrani joins me today, and it's been way too long since I caught up with Maz. Thought I'd do something a little bit different. Our conversation begins at about 24 minutes into today's show after the news. Thanks for all your feedback on the past few guests. People loving Bill Weir the other day on climate, and of course, Ray Suarez and his new book on the future of American immigration. Lots of great words and kind words on that. I know I've had a lot of men on the show lately, and so I'm going to try to make up for that next week. Cancel this sausage party, so sorry about that. As always, let me know who you want to hear on the show. Send me your female guest ideas as well. Can never get enough. standupwithpete@gmail.com. All right, let's get to the news from Earth One, where the disgraced former president is on trial. Republicans in the House are in disarray, and the United States Senate dismissed the fraud impeachment against the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Things that are actually happening in the world, even if your news source doesn't tell you. I will, each and every day here on Stand Up. So let's get to it. Here's what I've got for you. Let's start in the House of Representatives. I've got a lot of sound coming for you out of that chaotic body of government. And Speaker Mike Johnson, the Christian nationalist who has an accountability on porn with his grown son, and that can never be said enough, announced that yesterday that the House would vote on Saturday evening on a foreign aid package for Israel and Ukraine. Speaker Johnson, a Republican, is going to need Democrats to help him pass legislation and also possibly save his job. His attempt to advance the bill has put him in confrontation with the party's right flank. I'll give you some audio on that in a moment. The legislation includes $60 billion for Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, humanitarian aid for civilians in conflict zones, including Gaza, and $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific. President Biden has already endorsed it, urged its swift passage. Now let's go to Ukraine, who could really use the help, where at least 17 people were killed in a Russian missile strike north of Kiev. President Volodymyr Zelensky said yesterday Ukraine stood no chance of winning without more Western aid and blamed the country's lack of air defenses for the loss of life. Republicans in Arizona shot themselves in the foot and dicks because it was mostly dicks, that successfully prevented a vote to repeal the state's 1864 law banning abortion. In doing so, they defied pressure from prominent Republicans who know how to win elections, at least some of them, including disgraced former President Trump, who would urge them to toss the abortion ban, which many voters view as extreme and archaic. The Civil War era law, which state's Supreme Court reinstated last week, allows exceptions only to save the life of the mother. Doctors prosecuted under the law could face fines and prison terms of 2 to 5 years. Meanwhile, abortion clinics in Arizona are left uncertain of whether they'll be soon put out of operation. Republican leaders blocking the move to repeal Arizona abortion ban, of course, putting Arizona in play for Democrats in the Senate and to win the state. Here's some good news. Long-acting drugs could revolutionize HIV treatment in the next 5 to 10 years. Long-acting therapies to prevent or treat HIV may rid the need for patients to take a daily pill. Talked with Adam Sank about this not too long ago, last year, I should say. Drugs currently in development could usher in a future in which HIV may require attention just twice a year. Inconceivable when we were growing up in the darkest decades of the epidemic, the AIDS epidemic. Israel has signaled that it would retaliate against Iran. Prime Minister and disgraced leader himself, Benjamin Netanyahu, emerged from talks with European diplomats resolute that his country would not bow to outside pressure in responding to the recent attack by Iran. Britain's foreign secretary acknowledged after the meeting that an Israeli reprisal seemed inevitable. More top stories at a House committee hearing on anti-Semitism. Columbia University's president called for some faculty comments unacceptable and said one professor would never teach at the school again. The United States Senate, as I mentioned, dismissed the impeachment case against Alejandro Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary, a move that skips a trial altogether. Around 4,300 workers at a Volkswagen plant in Tennessee will vote on whether to join the UAW, United Automobile Workers Union. That is a significant change in a right not to work state, if you will. President Biden continued his campaigning through Pennsylvania. In a speech to steel workers in Pittsburgh, he called for major increases to some tariffs on steel and aluminum products, or aluminium products, from China. I'll play you some audio from that. The company's directors at Tesla asked shareholders to again approve Elon Musk's $47 billion pay deal and move the company's registration to Texas from Delaware. We'll see what happens with Tesla, but they are not looking good. Crazy turn of events for that company. Or not. Many predicted this. Yesterday at a Senate panel, a company whistleblower of Boeing detailed his concerns about safety. And here's an initiative worth watching. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg announced yesterday that new partnership with more than a dozen states' attorneys general to investigate consumer complaints against airlines. And finally, I did want to mention the passing of former Florida Governor Bob Graham. I interviewed the man. He's a former U.S. Senator as well. I interviewed him a couple times. He actually really liked me and was very kind to me. And I think he was an honorable public servant and a man of integrity and class. I really do. And he passed away yesterday, gained national prominence as chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee in the aftermath of the 2001 terrorist attacks. And he was an early critic of the Iraq War, and he was outspoken to me and so many others. He was 87 years old, Senator and former Florida Governor Bob Graham has passed away. And I just wanted to mention that because he played a significant role in making me feel important as a member of media, as someone who's against the Iraq War early on, and really liked that guy. So sorry to hear of his loss. He was 87 years old. All right. Well, that's all the headlines I've got for you. Now let's get to those audio clips that I try to bring each and every day. Always great to hear what you like and don't like about the news segment, but most of you really enjoy what I'm doing here and putting together for you. It's a lot of work, so thanks very much for any feedback you can give me. All right, let's begin with that chaos yesterday in the House. It was another amazing meeting of the House Oversight Committee where the chairman is Republican from Kentucky and man without a brain, James Comer. The hearing was supposed to be about the Chinese Communist Party and foreign dealings that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden had with them. Of course, none of it's true, and Jamie Raskin found himself at wit's end yesterday during the meeting, and he and James Comer went back and forth, and it was pretty crazy. I want to share a few of the clips from that hearing yesterday, starting with this one. I don't think it needs too much more of a setup than that. Here we go.
What happens when our leaders cave in to China and to Russia? So here are some of the tweets that were sent out by the last president about President Xi in China. Smart, brilliant, everything perfect. We love each other. Friend of mine, a very, very good man. There's nobody like that. The look, the brain, the whole thing. My feeling toward you is an incredibly warm one. A brilliant man. If you went all over Hollywood to look for somebody to play the role of President Xi, you couldn't find it. There's nobody like that. The look, the brain, the whole thing. And here's the ex-president on Putin. His invasion of Ukraine is genius and pretty savvy. Putin was smart. The man has very strong control over a country, a tough cookie with great charm. So we need some democratic self-respect in order to combat the propaganda. And I am also happy that we saw today a few members actually demonstrate what propaganda running through American politicians looks like. Thank you for calling this very significant and important hearing, Mr. Chairman. I yield back to you.
All right, well, that sounded normal enough, and Jamie Raskin did his job, turned it around, and showed the relationship, the sweet relationship the last guy had with these dictators. Now, here it gets crazy.
No, this is a hearing on China, and you all have an obsession with Russia and Trump. It's disturbing.
We can talk about China
therapy.
and Trump or Russia and Trump.
You need therapy, Mr. Raskin.
No. You need therapy. You're the one who's involved with the deranged politician, not me, okay? I've divorced myself from Donald Trump a long time ago. You're the one who needs to disentangle.
Well, James Comer didn't much like that, and now it gets really crazy.
I don't know
What
who you're
business
talking
were
about.
they in?
Well, what business is the Comers in? You're talking about lots of people. There's lots of people in the family.
I'm a farmer.
Your
I have land.
Your
lease land.
impeachment investigation must identify
What did
a
the
high crime
Bidens
and
do?
misdemeanor.
What did they do?
I'll tell you what Joe Biden
$1 million?
did. He was a senator of the United States. Then he wrote a book, and he said he made the most money he ever made in his life, millions of dollars on his book, and he gave $1 million
That's
away
what
to
his
charity.
family did. That's why Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Romania, China, Russia, that's why they paid the Biden family money, because of Joe Biden.
None of those governments paid anyone any money.
Somebody needs therapy here, but it's nobody on our side of the aisle, okay?
Because enough.
No,
Back to the
honestly,
China hearing. Back to the China
you
hearing.
had your chance.
Order.
I would like my time restored.
Well, no, your time was expired.
You interrupted me. I want my time
you
restored.
had your time. You went above, and I'll let Miss Thornton go a minute.
You know what?
Here, sit down, everybody. Come back. This is about China. We asked a simple question. No, Miss Presley, you're out of order. Sit down.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I love it. Jamie Raskin just mops the floor with this guy. Here's just a little bit more between the two of them.
Office
Mr.
building.
Chairman.
What business? Did they have an energy
Mr. Chairman, we have spent tens of millions of dollars pursuing Joe Biden, and you have not identified a single crime.
You are
Really?
lying. That
Really?
is a lie. We have not spent $10 million.
Hey, how much have you spent?
We haven't spent hardly anything.
Oh, it's been for free. Okay. All right. Well, in any event, wait, you know what? Then we get what we paid for, because you got nothing. You got nothing on Joe Biden.
No. Answer
You've
this
not
question.
named a single crime.
Question.
No, you.
All right. And then obviously it really just devolved from there. But I thought this was pretty great from Congressman Robert Garcia of California. I thought this was good.
This gentleman over here. This, of course, is Gal Luft. We know that a Chinese spy, Gal Luft, infiltrated this committee's sham impeachment inquiry against President Biden with false allegations. Now, according to his federal indictment, Gal paid a former U.S. government official who was a Donald Trump advisor to, quote, publicly support certain policies favorable to China. He also sold Chinese arms around the world. Now, our chairman, who wanted this gentleman to be a witness, called him, quote, a very credible witness. This is a Chinese spy we're talking about, just because Gal Luft was willing to help Republicans smear the president. So when we're talking about China's influence, it starts with the House majority, our chairman, wanting to have a witness, this man, who actually was a Chinese spy. So it's completely ridiculous for Republicans to claim to get tough on China while they're working with literal Chinese agents to spread misinformation. Goes to show you what a joke this is.
Indeed. Now here's the great Maxwell Frost, the youngest congressman, taking on Marjorie Taylor Greene and her anti-Semitism in that hearing.
You asked multiple questions.
I did not ask him a question.
You certainly did. You said, did you see this?
Time has expired. Gentlelady's time's expired. Chair now recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into it, it's interesting to hear my colleague just now talk about disavowing white supremacists when in 2022, she spoke at an event led by white supremacists and white nationalist Nick Fuentes, and when asked about it, doubled down on it and said, we're going to focus on people, not labels. So get out of here with that damn hypocrisy. And Dr.
Ooh-wee, Maxwell Frost letting loose on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and rightfully so. And Jared Moskowitz wasn't about to be overshadowed when he got very serious about the anti-Semitism and the framing, because this is Marjorie Taylor Greene and others talking about Ukraine are Nazis and using Putin's talking points. Jared Moskowitz was having none of it and tried to create some perspective given his family's history.
Now, I want to address something else that went on in this committee by another member. And I say this as someone whose grandparents escaped the Holocaust. So my grandmother was part of the Kindertransport out of Germany. Her parents were killed in Auschwitz. My grandfather, her husband, escaped Poland from the pogroms. The idea that we pretend that behavior is acceptable and regular. There are no concentration camps in Ukraine. They're not taking babies and shooting them in the air because they're Jewish. There's no gas chambers. There's no ovens. They're not railing people in. They're not ripping gold out of people's mouth. They're not taking stuff out of their home. They're not trying to erase a people. They're Ukrainians. Stop bringing up Nazis and Hitler. The only people who know about Nazis and Hitler are the 10 million people and their families who lost their loved ones, generations of people who were wiped out. It is enough of this disgusting behavior using Nazis as propaganda. You want to talk about Nazis? Get yourself over to the Holocaust Museum. You go see what Nazis did. It's despicable that we use that and we allow it and we sit here like somehow it's regular.
All right. Well, just a small sampling of what happened at the House Oversight Committee yesterday. Hopefully you appreciate me gathering all of those clips for you. And now let's move to the chaos in the life of Speaker Mike Johnson, who, as I mentioned, is unveiling this legislation, support for Ukraine, Gaza, Taiwan, and more in the House on Saturday. And of course, he's had the votes for this. Nothing has changed. This is a lie when he says it took him a while to put this together. But here he is appearing on The Lead with CNN, where host Jake Tapper played a montage of House Republicans grumbling about the upcoming votes on aid, particularly on Ukraine.
Some of your colleagues are blasting your plan to separate the bills. Here's a little sampler that we presented and prepared for you.
It's surrender. It's disappointing. I won't support it. It's disappointing. It's completely detached from what our base wants, what our voters want.
Well, go ahead, move it. I mean, I'm a voting no. I'm voting no. I've never voted to give any money to Ukraine, and I'm not going to do it today.
I'm absolutely disappointed.
I don't know how long people are going to tolerate this because he's doing nothing but serving the Democrats.
All right, I'm sure you know those voices, but it's Gates, Crane, Nels, Burleson, and, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Are you going to have to rely on Democrats to pass the rule in order to bring these bills to the floor and also the legislation itself?
Well, I hope not. I hope that our Republican colleagues will stand together, stick together on this. I think we understand, look, I'm a child of the 80s. I regard myself as a Reagan Republican. I understand the concept of maintaining peace through strength. That's one of our guiding principles. It's a really important philosophy, and it's a big part of our party and our worldview. And I think here is an opportunity to make that stand at a really critical time in world history. I mean, there are global implications to what we do. So, look, everybody can grumble about details of the legislation. What I remind my friends and everybody you just showed are all good friends. Listen, we're not going to get 100% of what we want right now because we have the smallest majority in history, and we only have the majority in one chamber. The Republicans run the House. We have the small majority in the House. The Democrats are in charge of the Senate and the White House. So by definition, we won't get everything we want. But we got a great product here at the end, much better than the alternative that came in the Senate supplemental. And now everybody gets to vote their conscience, up or down. That's what we're for, regular process, regular order, and accountability to the people. And I think you'll see that here this week.
All right, Mike Johnson saying something really important there when he mentions we won't get everything we want. We have a very slim majority, the smallest majority in the history of the House. We won't get everything we want. Well, that's not how it has ever worked for Republicans since I've been covering politics. It's always been this way. You've got right-wing conservative talkers demanding that Republicans get everything that they want. Well, that's not how government works. It's not how governing works. It's not how compromise works. You can't get everything you want. That's why they can't repeal Obamacare. That's why they couldn't pass infrastructure. That's why they can't do anything, because you can't get everything you want and pass legislation. But the far right, or most in the House, demand purity. It's not how it works. It never will. But that's what they make their voters and Republicans and their audiences on all those right-wing shows believe it is. And of course, it's just never going to happen. One more clip from that interview where Jake Tapper plays a clip of the disgraced former president who was asked if he's still supporting Mike Johnson. And he starts to sound like he's wavering here, even though they were supposed to be besties. And Mike Johnson brought his wife down there and had dinner with the disgraced rapist and 4 times indicted last guy. Here it is.
Another player here that we haven't talked about, Donald Trump, who you support for president. I want to play some of what he said last night when he was asked if he plans to protect you from any sort of motion to depose of you by the far right. Take a listen.
President, how should Israel protect Speaker Johnson?
Well, we'll see what happens with that. I think he's a very good
Did he brief?
We'll see what happens with that. I think he's a very good person. Have you talked to Trump about this plan, this legislative plan, in terms of how you're introducing these foreign aid bills? And ultimately, will he have your back?
Oh, I think he will. I was just with him on Friday down at Mar-a-Lago, and we had dinner together, and my wife was with me, and we had a great visit. We talked about a lot of things, all the politics going on in the country, and he said at a press conference we had there together that I'm doing a very good job, and he supports me and all of that. Listen, I think this is all going to work out. I think it's going to be fine. I did tell the president the plan on all of this, and I think he clearly understands why we're running this play and why we need to do this. I think this sets up the next election, the next administration, the next president, and I believe he's going to win, in a better position. I think that President Trump is strong enough that he could enter the world stage and broker a peace deal in Ukraine if Russia is still advancing at that time. I mean, I think he has the strong enough hand to be able to do that, and that's why this election is so important. It's a very...
All right. Thank you very much. There it is. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. We'll be closely watching that. And now it's time to get to our current president, who's doing a great job. In my opinion, he's in Pennsylvania campaigning while his opponent is in criminal court in Manhattan for lying about paying off a porn star. Apparently, Melania is none too happy that he has brought Barron into it, saying he can't be at his son's graduation, and the reporting is that his wife is pissed. Well, let me just not be concerned about that. Plenty to be concerned about in the world and our lives, and that is not something. There you go. You get what you deserve. Here's President Biden yesterday on the campaign trail in Pennsylvania.
Thanks to my bipartisan infrastructure law, we announced over 51,000 new infrastructure projects all across America. So far, we're just getting started, including roads, bridges, ports, airports, clean water systems, high-speed, affordable internet, all across America. You may remember my predecessor promised infrastructure week after week after week for 4 years and never built a damn thing. Nothing. No, I'm serious. Nothing. And by the way, these projects are going to be using American-made material like American steel, American concrete, creating good paying American jobs, union jobs. Why? As I said, I already said it, but since the 30s, the law said we could do that. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And we're buying American. We are selling American. It's all about America. We buy America, and past administration, including my predecessor, failed to uphold that Buy America provision. Not anymore. That's over.
All right. There you have it. That's the sound of... Oh, no, wait. We got to have some laughs, don't we? Jon Stewart's back hosting The Daily Show, of course, only on Monday nights. But he had a fun riff about the Middle East and the wars there that I wanted to include. Here it is.
All right. Can I have a word with you, Middle East? Over here. Shalom Aleikum. Trying to cover all bases. Listen, I hope this doesn't sound patronizing, but when we in the West drew your region's borders and set you up with perfectly functioning dictatorships, we expected a little better. See, the agreement was we would make up a whole new bunch of countries, some of which made sense. And in return, you would give us your delicious oil. That was the deal. You give us your delicious oil, and we take it. We certainly didn't expect to get drawn into all the drama that our actions created. And now... these wars have got us all turned around. At one point, we're helping Iraq fight Iran, and then we're invading Iraq, and now we're helping Iran fight ISIS, and then we're using ISIS to help fight Houthis that are backed by Iran. I mean, in Gaza, we're actually bombing them and feeding them. How do you think that makes us feel?
Wow.
Oh, did you have a nice sandwich? Run! Oh, and apparently now there's two kinds of Islam? I mean, you could have told us that before we got into this. As I said earlier, arbitrarily gerrymandered your homeland, so do better. Keep that oil coming.
All right, Jon Stewart back at The Daily Show. I thought that was pretty smart. Want to include it, and there you go. Well, now it's time to get to my guest. I'm really excited to have him back on the show. We have been friends for a long time. We go way back, and he's one of the funniest guys I know, and I loved catching up with him. He's a comedian and an actor, the LA Times best-selling author of I'm Not a Terrorist, but I Played One on TV. His new stand-up comedy special, The Birds and the Bees, was filmed in the main room at the Comedy Store, now available for streaming on YouTube. I watched it and absolutely loved it. And you know what? Here's a clip. How about some more laughs before we get to my conversation with Maz Jobrani?
No, I'm happy you got it. I'm happy anybody got their shot. You know, some people we know, some people don't want to get their shot. We all have that friend that didn't want to get the shot because he was afraid the government was going to put a chip in him. I heard that. I go, who the fuck do you think you are that the government of the United States is concerned with what you're doing Tuesdays at 2? Who do you think you are? The CIA is sitting around. I wonder what Tommy does every Tuesday at 2. Let's put a chip and find out. You know how disappointed they would be after 2 weeks? They'd be like, this motherfucker's been sitting on a couch watching TikTok videos. Can we get the chip back? By the way, if you have a friend who thinks they're going to put a chip in them, let them know they already have it. It's called your phone, right? They know what we're doing, right? If you don't believe me, try buying a pair of shoes on your phone, see what happens. I swear to God, Homera, a year ago, I bought a pair of Nikes on my phone. Every time I turn on my phone, it asks me if I want a Nike. The other day, I got on my phone, went on Safari right away. It goes, you want a Nike? I go, no thanks, I already have a Nike. I did 3 scrolls. It goes, how about now? I go, motherfucker, I told you above, I don't want the Nike. Then every app got in on it. I checked the weather. It goes, it's going to be hot. Buy a Nike. I got directions on Waze. It goes, make a left. Get a Nike. I got so worried. I called my mom. I go, Mom, some weird stuff is going on with my phone. She goes, you want a Nike? I go, you too? She goes, Maz. I go, what? She goes, just do it.
Such a great comedy special. Watch it for free on YouTube right now. Birds and Bees, Maz Jobrani. Of course, he's also an actor. He's been on Grey's Anatomy, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Shameless, a regular guest on Colbert, The Late Late Show with James Corden. He's also been in a whole bunch of movies. The Interpreter, Disney's Descendants, Ice Cube's Friday After Next, and his other stand-up comedy specials, including Netflix original Immigrant, as well as 3 additional solo specials. You gotta watch it all. He actually even performed at the White House, where he had the privilege of introducing Michelle Obama. He's a real big deal. I'm telling you, he's a regular panelist on NPR's Wait, Don't Tell Me, 2 TED Talks, and so much more. Go to MazJobrani.com right now. You can see him coming up in Texas this weekend. He's back in LA at the beginning of May at the Netflix is a Joke Festival, the Hollywood Improv. You can see him in Detroit in May. Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, great comedy club there. All the dates at MazJobrani.com. Let's do it right now with my old friend, Maz Jobrani. Maz Jobrani, welcome back. It's so great to see you. I feel like no matter how much time passes, I always feel very close to you. What is that about, do you think?
I don't know. I think there's like the bald thing is definitely one thing. Then there's the comedian thing. Then there's our ages. I think I'm a West Coast version of your East Coast version.
No, I think it's deeper than that. I think we spent a good bit of time together at different times through our career, and there was always a sensibility, at least. Oh, you're a decent man. You're a smart man. You're a compassionate man. You're a family man, as we both progress. And I think, and then obviously our political sensibilities and stuff, but I feel that, and I think you also know that I'm one of the good ones.
Absolutely. No, in all honesty, I do. I think the first time I met you, I was in New York, and I think were you doing warm up for the Colbert Report? Or I
did for 6 years, but go ahead.
So I did the Colbert Report years ago, and I think I either had met you in stand up before, and then I saw you there. And again, like you're right, the political sensibilities. And then after that, of course, we were at a couple of like festivals together and stuff. So it's always great to see you. I got to tell you that right now, man.
Yeah, I feel that way too. And I'm sorry it's been so long, and I'm really excited to have you here. And I just watched your new special on YouTube, Birds and Bees, just before I talked to you. And oh my God, dude, I said to myself, I'm going to tell him I don't watch a lot of stand-up specials because as a comic and as a it's not as fun to be out there watching it. I laughed so hard and I was so happy watching it. Maybe it's just because I love you, but anybody who likes your stuff already loved this special. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Give him the numbers. It's got 500,000 views. Obviously, you must be so happy with it, dude. I love that special.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you watching it. Yeah, we filmed it at the Comedy Store, which was special for me, which is where I got my start.
Yeah.
And it was actually interesting because this was around the time Chappelle was coming by the Comedy Store a lot. Mm-hmm. And when Chappelle comes by the Comedy Store, he's like the Pied Piper. Like he always has, wherever he goes, he's got a party happening. So there's a back room at the Comedy Store. And every time Chappelle would come, whatever room he'd perform in at the Comedy Store, whether it was a small room where there's 50 people crammed in, or it's the big room, he would always end up with this party in the back. And I ended up at that party a couple of times, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And he had music, and he had celebrities. I was like, wow, this is really cool. So when I shot my special there, I asked the Comedy Store, I said, hey, can I use the back bar to have an after party? I'm going to get a playlist together, and it's going to be cool, and my friends and fans, it's going to be a cool event. And just to show you how like older we've gotten in terms of like my friends and everything, my shows ended. Nobody came to the back. I had a whole playlist. I'm in the back bar with 3 of the employees and we're having tequila. I'm like, all right. Yeah, it was so funny.
You should have told them. You didn't tell anybody to come back. You didn't give the directive.
No, I told them to come back, but they're all parents. So they're like, we got to go.
Exactly.
I got work tomorrow. Pell's group is, I'm like, I'm a celebrity. I don't have nothing to do tomorrow.
It's very true. I think a lot of people listening are in that age demographic, I'm sure. But let's talk about it, man. You're now 52. I'm 48. Yeah. Tell the folks a little bit about your personal family situation right now, your kids, their ages, and your wife. You live in a home in Southern California. Your kids are in school. Where are you at in life, man?
It's a trip because I think in our minds, we're still young. And the truth is, I always tell people of our age group that compared to our parents, we seem much younger because like my dad back in the day being 52, I think would be walking around with a briefcase, very adult-like, doing adult things, not wearing sneakers around town, not hanging out in t-shirts. I mean, I'm a comedian. So like my day to day when I'm not on the road is I get up, I got this little mini golden doodle that my family made me get, who now is like my dog, whom I love. And her name's Yasu. I get her and we go to a coffee shop called Kings Road Cafe up the street that has the best coffee, I think, in maybe the country. And we come across this table of regulars and we talk and we hang out and I take her for a walk and I come back and I get a couple things done, post a couple things on Twitter or not on Twitter, on Instagram or TikTok. And that's my day. And then the kids are coming home. I go pick them up. I'm Mr. Mom. I get the kids. My daughter's 13. My son is 15. That's a trip. My wife is working. It's weird. Like life keeps going. I just was talking to a friend. He's like, I'm going to be 60. I go, oh my God. It just blows your mind. There's so much happening at the same time. You know what I'm saying? I think we got like our midlife crisis / our awareness of our own invincibility and our own mortality. And at the same time, watching and being proud of our kids as they grow up and become real people. It's just a lot happening.
You've always struck me as someone who's very even keeled and intelligent, both intellectually, emotionally, and that what I'm about to say I know is ridiculous, but that you don't really struggle. Everything looks pretty good from my vantage point with your career, with your marriage, with your family, with your home, your kids. You look like you always strike me as that way. And you mentioned midlife crisis. Is there anything even remotely in your life that's close to applying to that phrase?
No, listen, we do. I think everybody on the outside looks great, but then really we all are human beings. So it's even things that remind you. I watched this great documentary on HBO Max called Dear Writer. It's about the Burton boards, the founder of the Burton snowboards.
Oh, Jake Burton. Yeah. I grew up snowboarding. Yeah.
Yeah. So he seems like he was an amazing person and he was living life. And then he gets sick and then he goes, I'm going to go snowboarding 100 days a year. And then he gets better and then he gets sick again. And you're like, oh my God. So in my mind, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, what's my snowboarding 100 days a year version of that? What do I got to do? Meanwhile, as a stand-up comedian, I've seen a lot of the world. But I do want, I don't know, there's certain things where I'm just like, I got to do this and I want to do this. And then there's times where, as you said, I'm on one wavelength and my wife might be on another wavelength. So I might be like, I might come home after watching that on an airplane and going, we have to say yes to everything. We're going to every party. We're going to go to lunch. We're going to go to dinner. We're going to see and do everything with everyone because we're going to die soon. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. So then I'm like, I'm going on my own. So
it sounds like you're describing pretty well. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Oliver Berkman's work, his new book, newish book, 4,000 Weeks. That's how many weeks of life the average person gets, or if you live to 80. And it really, if you're not familiar with it, it's so important to take a look at because exactly what you're going through. He names it. And it helps you put into perspective what's important, which is what it sounds like you spend some time thinking about. How about your kids? How are they doing? How's the adolescent phase?
My kids,
got one of each.
Yeah, one of each, boy, girl. I got to knock on wood. They're both good kids. But everybody knows, like, everyone would tell you, wait till they're teenagers. Wait till they're teenagers. You're like, no big deal. They become teenagers, like, oh my God, this is a big deal. It's, again, that has its own a million things happen because they're going through stuff. And then for you as a parent, you're going through this idea of, oh my God, they're not my baby anymore. Right. I had the hardest time. My son took me aside once when he was like, I don't know, 13-ish, 12, something like that. We're walking and he's like, talk to you for a minute. I go, what is it? He goes, I'd like to stop calling you daddy. I want to start calling you dad.
Oh yeah, we did.
And
we
went
through that. Yep.
I was like, you piece of, I don't know if you can swear on this show or not. I was like, you piece of shit. How dare you? I go, I'm not dad. I go, dad is the guy your mother marries when she divorces me. He's going to come up to you at a barbecue and be like, now that I've been with your mother for a year, son, I'd like you to call me dad. I said, that's when your job is to be like, you're not my dad, Mike. He's my dad. And you point at me and I go, I don't want to be his dad either. I just want to be daddy.
I had something. I give my dad, who I talk to all the time today, he'll be 80 this summer, all the grace for so many different reasons. But I had the similar thing for me. Ava, I remember, did that with us. Don't want to call you mommy and daddy anymore. And yeah, it broke my heart, but I was like, okay, all right. Yeah. But when I was young, my dad, and I don't think I've ever admitted this anywhere, we did a thing called nose kiss, where I'd kiss his nose and he'd kiss my nose.
Oh.
And I started it. It was my thing. And my dad was okay. Always cool with it. I don't know. I might have been 9 or 10 when I started it. I don't know why. It's a little weird. But then I told my dad, I was like, hey dad, it was like 12, 13. I was like, no more. The nose kiss has to end. And he was like, all right. He probably never liked it anyways. That's probably how he was fucking weird, son. Nose kiss. The hell? He's like, yeah, they couldn't have ended too soon, but I remember having to confront that and it being a thing. The kids you struggle with, like I raised my daughters to be, hopefully we raised them to be independent and confident, and now they are, and now I don't see them and talk to them as much, and I miss the hell out of them, but that was the plan. That's what I wanted. I don't want them to rely on me for hardly anything. The plan was live until they're as independent as possible. Then I can die without guilt. Like I did it. Now I can go. I feel that now. They're 16 and 19. I don't want to die. I don't think they want me to die, but they're so good. And now I don't get to see them and talk to them as much.
Yeah, it is. It's a cruel reality of life because you're right. It's almost like you train these people the way you kind of mold them the way you want them to be. Of course, they go their own route in many ways, but still you become this person that loves them. Like you hear about once in a while, you hear about like parents and there's children who don't get along. They go, I hate my mom. I hate my dad. I hate my kid, whatever it is. I can't even imagine that. Like I just like my son and my nephew, who's like a son to me as well. I took them to this event for the college I went to. And the whole time I was like, oh, I can't wait for you guys to go to this college so I can come visit you guys. It's all about be close. I want to be nearby. But of course I'm not going to do that. But it's very strange. And then boys and girls are very different. Like my daughter and the stuff that she is going through and the stuff that she, that girls go through as with two daughters, it's such a crazier, different world. Like my son had some volatility in his 13, 14, but now he's 15. He's very mature 15. And my daughter's 13 and she's grown a lot this past year, but just hearing some of the stuff that's going on at school between girls and all that, you see it in like Mean Girls and you're like, oh, it's a movie. And then the girl gets to that age, you're like, oh no, it's real.
Yeah.
So it's so strange.
Do you and your wife spend a lot of time or any time worrying about specifically the future of their jobs and their careers? Like I think that we got screwed to a certain extent later in our careers and how things have changed so fast. And we could talk about us in a moment. But do you think about your kids? Because when I look at you and your wife, you're like very well-respected, successful people. You got a lot of privilege that you've earned and been given, and you could help them out. You can help your kids out. You'll be fine. You'll connect them with the right people. You're friends with Tom Hanks and Glenn Kirshner and a whole bunch of other celebrities. Your wife is no slouch. Everybody, your kids will be okay. I try to tell myself that, but I sit here and I do worry and I'm not talking about democracy and climate and all the other existential things. I'm specifically talking about, say, AI, the economics, the way they are. Like, what jobs are they going to get? What kind of economic security? How much do you think about that, or not at all?
I will say two things. First of all, I got to tell the story of the Glenn Kirshner, Tom Hanks thing, because people don't know what you just referenced, which is Glenn Kirshner we both love, and I've met him, and he came to LA. He
loves you, yeah.
Well, he's the best. And he came to LA with his wife, Nilu, who's Persian. And we went to dinner with Nilu and Glenn and myself and my wife. And we went to the Pacific Palisades. And I had done a movie with Tom Hanks' wife, Rita Wilson, where I played her. I married her in the movie. So I'd run into him before in LA. And the first time I ran into him, I said, "Hi, Mr. Hanks. Sorry, I don't want to bother you. I married your wife in a movie." And he's so nice. He's like, "You're the guy." And he took a picture with me. So it just so happened when Glenn and Nilu come to LA, of all the people and all the things that we could run into, I happened to be at a restaurant and Tom Hanks is inside the restaurant. At first I felt weird. I was like, I don't want to go up to him. So I didn't go up to him, but he happened to walk past us on his way out. And I was like, I got to say something. I go, "Mr. Hanks, don't worry about it." And he's so nice. And he did, again, I told him the story that I was in a movie with his wife. He goes, "You're the guy." And he goes, "Get up here." And he takes his phone out, takes a picture with me to send to his wife, Rita. And then I go, "By the way, this is my friend Glenn and his wife, Nilu." And he was so nice. "Oh, I know you all." And he was, and so
he recognized Kirshner, Tom Hanks did?
Yeah, from MSNBC.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And I think, and I just felt, I was like, oh yeah, this, of course, Glenn, you hang out with me, you're going to meet Tom Hanks. It's going to happen. So it's just funny that happened randomly. But going back to the worrying about my kids, first of all, two things. Number one, going the route that I went in my life, where I studied political science, and then I went to Italy when I was a junior in college, and I was originally going to be a lawyer because my parents wanted me to be a lawyer. And then when I went to Italy, I decided I want to be a professor. So I got into a PhD program, dropped out of that PhD program, worked in advertising. I jumped around a lot until I was in my mid-20s, and I realized I've loved being on stage since I was 12 years old, doing plays as for fun. And so I said, this is what I'm going to do. So the route I took was such a circuitous route, and I ended up landed on my feet. I feel that most human beings have that capability, especially if you're trusting the journey and you land on your feet and you find the thing that you're passionate about. And success is not, as we both know, it's not owning $1 billion company, but success is finding something you love doing and doing it. So whether that's being a teacher or a park ranger or a whatever, baseball coach, whatever you want to do, just find it, love it, go for it. So I'm not as worried about their future because I go, they're going to find it. I think the difficulty right now is that we get bombarded with this, like, hard to get into college. It's hard to do this. AI. These kids are smarter than us in the ways of technology and what's happening. So they're going to adapt. So even like with my son and nephew yesterday at that event, I'm looking at them and I'm going, guys, I don't know what you're going to end up doing. You don't have to, because they feel the pressure a lot of times because they hear the talking as well. Even though you go, don't worry about it. They're hearing adults say, you need to know by 10th grade what your career path is so that by the time you're a senior, you get to no, just relax, chill out, keep working hard, keep busting your ass in terms of doing well at what you got to do right now. Matter of fact, my son just talked to this guy who's a professor in a subject that he's interested in. And the professor had gone to my son's high school and put his name on a board of if students want to reach out and talk to him, I'm available.
Mentor.
So my son reached out to him. And the number one thing the guy said, he goes, listen, number one thing, don't worry too much about all this future stuff. He goes, don't miss your youth. Enjoy your sophomore year, your junior year, your senior year. That's what it is.
Great. That's mindfulness. That's great. And in society, as you just said, in culture, especially in America, but certainly other countries, you always joke about the pressure of other Arab, Muslim, Persian cultures, Jewish, put on young people to succeed. Certainly that's an issue, but the truth is what you just said, mindfulness, stay in the moment. That's great advice from that guy. I love that. And I love your whole answer. That's really inspiring and optimistic. I think I generally feel the same way, but I worry just about what the economy is going to be. But there's obviously more important issues than money and having health insurance and more existential issues. And I obviously wanted to talk with you about that? Because we haven't talked in a while. Do you have a similarly somewhat optimistic view about the future of American democracy? How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I don't know about that. The kids will be fine. Democracy won't, but the kids are going to be great. They're going to be great in a dictatorship. Let's put it this way. There's a lot of people living in dictatorships all over the world, just prospering and having a great old time as long as you just abide by the rules that the great leader has laid out. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, as long as you don't mind freedom.
As long as you don't mind freedom, you're going to be fine. Just make sure you salute whenever the great leader walks anywhere, you stand up. No.
By the way, if you guaranteed me a certain lifestyle, I'd move to that country. If you're like, you get this house, you get to do this, you got access to that, and we give you a car, and this is your guaranteed income, I'd be like, all right, what's the temperature generally during the summer?
There's a lot of countries whereas in America, we're like, I don't like that. I'm going outside. I'm going to say, I don't like that. I don't like that. There's a lot of countries where they go, I don't like that, but let's keep it between us. I don't want these people in the walls to hear what I'm saying. So and they're like, I'm okay with my lifestyle. Listen, as much as there's hopelessness and there's hopefulness, the hopelessness comes in all the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Lauren Boeberts and the Donald Trumps and all the numbnuts and all the craziness and just the things where you sit there. Donald Trump is like that really bad boyfriend in high school who's just a jerk, and you see it. Everyone sees it, but the girl dating him does not. The girl's like, he's okay. You're like, he's not okay. You just open your eyes. He's going to take away your rights, and it's too late. So there's that, but the hopefulness comes in. We were just talking about our kids, and I run across a lot of kids. I run across a lot of people who are doing some amazing things. And things that I don't know anything about. So whether it's in biomedicine or it's in renewable energy or it's in rights, it's like I think Obama famously had given that talk or answer one time where he said, it takes a long time for this progress to be made. But if you look at it now, we do have, there is freedom of marriage for the LGBTQ, gay rights, gay marriage is legal. Like back in the day, multiracial couples were illegal. Like we've made some progress, and this generation continues to push that progress. And that's why I think you get so much backlash, because these people that are afraid of the progress, and they need to hold on to everything. And they go, the white man is being attacked. No, the white man is not being attacked. It's just that these people who are fully capable, who happen to be either women or people of color, they're stepping up and they're showing up in your boardrooms and going, hey, what's up? I'm a smart person too, and I want a piece of the pie. I'm optimistic that those people will continue to push us in the right direction. Fingers crossed, and please don't vote for Trump.
Yeah, I think you're, by the way, referring to Obama, often referring to Dr. King's The Arc of the Moral Universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And I used to feel that way until Trump got elected and they started taking voting rights. Well, he appointed all these Supreme Court justices, voting rights repealed. They were repealed actually during Obama. Actually, the Roberts Court did that, of course. But then they tried to take health care. They failed, luckily. But they did allow states to take reproductive rights. And so I still agree with that. And I'm very optimistic and I share your views. But it is hard to have these setbacks for women in America, for gays in America, and obviously for black and brown folks But
look at how it's galvanized we saw in the midterm elections results.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that issue is going? I think that the women's reproductive rights, the overturning of abortion, that's all we need to we almost don't need to talk about politics.
Yeah, that's going to be front and center because every day it's in our face, right? The Arizona decision. Yeah. And then just now Glenn Youngkin over there in Virginia just didn't sign. I think they were trying to codify the right to an abortion there. So it's going to be front and center because they're not going to stop. They're cuckoo. Listen, here's what I say. I have this perspective that most Americans don't. I was born in Iran. Iran, before the Islamic Revolution, was not a perfect country. It had its problems. However, it was a lot freer than it is today because it was not run under religious law. Yeah. Once it became the Islamic Republic of Iran, they took away women's rights. Women got to cover themselves up. Women in courts do not have the same value as a man does. A lot of women's rights went away. So women's rights, then the rights of the LGBTQ community, then the rights of religious minorities. So all of that I've seen this movie before. And
you lived this. Your family lived this. You don't have to read about it in history. And those who haven't lived it, we're very soft and comfortable and have no idea what we could lose, and history doesn't matter to a lot of Americans. And even if it does, it was a long time ago. That's not going to happen again, from genocides and Holocaust to slavery and women's rights and all of that, like all the things that get taken. But you're saying, you know it. And I'm saying most of us don't.
Absolutely. It's mind blowing to me how some people don't pay as much attention. Obviously, you're a news junkie. I'm a news junkie. I'm listening to it all the time. I ran across someone recently where, by the way, we all have friends that are Republican or conservative or what have you, but like the idea of them still saying, oh, I would vote for Trump. Because I go, listen, I understand if you're a Republican, but to vote for this guy who's a big charlatan and a grifter, do you understand what's going on here? There's narcissism. And to have the conversation with him about because he, to his credit, has done a good job of keeping immigration an issue when he told the Congress, don't pass this immigration law that they were trying to update, which, by the way, gave the Republicans a lot of what they wanted. Yeah. And a lot of Democrats were holding their nose to vote for it. So I was talking to this guy and he was like, yeah, but immigration. I go, there was a bill that was both sides had negotiated. We're about to do it. And then Trump told them not to vote for it. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, because he's watching Fox or Newsmax or whatever it is, and they're not mentioning it. So they're in another void and they're not seeing the insidiousness of this.
I have a litmus test that I use in my life and language that goes along with it that I use in the show. It's not super original. I didn't come up with it, but I feel like it's very effective language. So I use Earth 1 and Earth 2. And I always try to let people know what I mean by Earth 1. But basically, the three rules are: vaccines are a public health miracle, man-made climate change is real, and Joe Biden won the election legitimately. It was the most secure election maybe ever, according to Trump's own people. And that's Earth 1. And if you agree to those three things, we can disagree on everything else and we can talk about it and morals and values and everything. But that's where I'm at. What do you think? Do you have any kind of like threshold or litmus test in your life when you're talking to someone and your family and your work on stage?
Absolutely, in my life. However, what I've realized is a lot of people, even some people that I know, are on Earth 2. And so I just try to avoid political conversations with them, because there are some people that, especially during the pandemic, listen, I took a class in college and they were talking about how a lot of these things, like people that tend to lean towards these conservative organizations, whether it's religion or some of the right wing or whatever it is, or any organization, people want answers. They want meaning in everything.
Yeah, so, uncertainty is a motherfucker for anyone.
Uncertainty. So then we get this pandemic and it's uncertain and it came out of wherever and who knows and who cares really where it came out of, but we're living it. And so I need an answer. You know what happened? Dr. Fauci was the guy who was behind it and the deep state and all this stuff. And the thing about poor Dr. Fauci, he spent 40, 50 years of his life. He's like, I am ready. I've been doing push-ups for this. And he's, let's go. And everyone's like, no, you caused it. He's like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and I think more about the work he did on HIV, AIDS, and Ebola. Like up until COVID, the man was universally thought as a public health hero who saved millions of people's lives and political risks in the 80s. I think around HIV wasn't popular necessarily, but he did it. And then with COVID, and I'm sure he made mistakes. I'm sure he would have done things differently, but Jesus, we all were pretty damn
confused.
When
you end up with this Earth 2 person that you used to at least be friends with, and you still consider friends, like I still love some of these people. Yeah. Then when they start talking from Earth 2, I'm like, can we not talk about this right now? Because I'm enjoying my time with you right now as the person that I know. And then once I leave, do you
really say, can we not talk about, do you really shift that over?
No, I don't get it. I just need to decide. Let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. I was at dinner the other night and I got a couple of friends that are conservative. And of course, a lot of my conservative friends, rather than necessarily coming out and being like, oh, Trump's such a great guy, they'll just start poo-pooing on everything that's wrong with California, right? So it's, oh, you saw the crime and the homelessness, and then there's a liberal, you got a liberal governor, you got a liberal this, San Francisco screwed up. Blah, blah, blah. And one of my friends was poo-pooing on San Francisco, and this other friend who lives in San Francisco now is like, because my friend was like, the liberal leadership of San Francisco has really messed it up. And my other friend was like, you're talking about the good old days of San Francisco in the 90s when we were there. It was still liberal. It's like, there's never been a conservative mayor of San Francisco. That just doesn't exist. What are you talking about? And we were talking, and our conversation had been on something completely different. It just went there for a second. And rather than getting involved and escalating it, I just was like, guys, how'd we just go from talking about whatever it was, going on vacation into this all of a sudden? Could we just veer back into that because I wasn't in the mood to. If I have to and the right thing comes up, I'm ready to go. The truth is, I argued a lot on a WhatsApp chat group during the pandemic, throughout the Trump years. A lot of people within the Persian community are pretty conservative, and there's a lot of Trump supporters in the Iranian community who happen to be my fans. And there's immigrants that are fans that like Trump. And so, and maybe the numbers are probably more against Trump, but there's enough of them that are pro-Trump and they're louder in terms of their dislike. When I make fun of Trump, they're like, how dare you? You're betraying us. And because they think Trump, this is the Iranian community. Trump said that, I'm going to get a better deal than the nuclear deal. I'm going to take care of Iran and this and that. And the truth is, I just remind them, I go, first of all, just so you know, whether it's a Republican or Democrat president, their number one job is to take care of America. So they're not going to be like, oh, let's free the people of Iran. No, they're going to be like, oh, let's just keep the gas prices down. That's number one.
Just to be clear, you're talking about Iranian Americans whose view towards Iran is about the leadership and regime change, or they're against it, meaning they are going to support the president who's the toughest on Iran, not Obama, who makes a deal with Iran. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So within the Iranian community, there's a lot of divisiveness. But the thing that most Iranians in the diaspora and many Iranians within Iran are in agreement with is that the government is an oppressive government. It goes back to what I said before. When you have an Islamic Republic of Iran, or if you ended up with a Christian Republic of America, you're living under a religious totalitarian state. A lot of people want Iran to be free and democratic. The question becomes, how do we get there? And then you get a guy like Donald Trump, who is the biggest charlatan in the world, who goes, I'm going to build the wall. Mexico will pay for it. I'm going to improve Iran. I'm going to fix North Korea. I'll have the war in Ukraine done in a day. He just says mumbo jumbo. Nothing gets done. But there's a portion of the group from my background who go, yeah, he's going to free Iran. He's going to free Iran. And the truth is, he doesn't have any plans or any ideas on how to do that. All of that to say, some of these people are and have been my friends for years. So when that conversation comes up, I debate whether I want to go down this path of going, are you blind? Do you not see that this guy is saying things that he's not doing? Do you want to be caustic?
Do you want to be tactful? Do you want to avoid? Do you want to be a Taoist?
Yeah,
that's good. I don't really have people in my life anymore that I'm close with that I see or talk to regularly that are on Earth too. And I think my whole audience is pretty much on Earth One. We have a lot of diverse opinions on a lot of things, obviously, but not those. So how much, is there anything that you're particularly specifically worried about for you or your family, your community? How is California, by the way? Is it as bad as people say, or why are you moving?
All of it. Here's the thing. If you're alive and awake and paying attention, there's not one reason for everything. You can't just be like, oh, Gavin Newsom, that's it.
But nuance is dead. But nuance is dead because of social media and the internet age and everything. You talked about this in your stand-up act about how much less of, you start back in the day, it was an hour-long special, and now you're down to 3 seconds on TikTok. That's going to make or break you. So that, to the point, nuance is gone on complex issues that you're talking about with California or anything else.
It's crazy. And what you'll see, you'll be driving along in an encampment of unhoused, homeless. I'm not even sure what you're supposed to call it anymore, but
I still call them homeless. I don't know. You don't have a home. You don't have a house. It's the same fucking word or pejorative. I don't want to, I'll do whatever they tell me. The smart people tell me, but on that one, I haven't changed, but go ahead. Sorry.
I'm with you, but you're driving by. And of course, if someone's got a conservative point of view, they're going to be like, the whole place is ruined. But meanwhile, they don't see the idea of, they're actually building housing to bring some of them into homes, and maybe there's funding going towards helping it. And or if the state is really mismanaging some of this stuff, then maybe you as a community person can get a few people within the community and do something about it. That's ultimately what it comes down to. You can really trace a lot of this stuff back to, it's multifaceted, but obviously we have, Reagan getting rid of the asylums, I guess you would call them, or the mental hospitals. Mental hospitals. Yeah. And were those things great? No, they were probably very abusive. But that said, maybe you didn't have as many people out on the streets. And then obviously there's mental health. Obviously there's financial issues. Obviously there's disparity of wealth. So then when you have these people complain about it all, and I go, then you're complaining about this. I'm using homelessness as an issue, but you're complaining about homelessness, right? And I go, and yet you are also complaining about the amount of taxes you're paying. But you do realize it's going to take money to help fix this. And if we can, maybe there's some of these people who don't have mental health, but they have financial issues. And if we can maybe help them get on their feet, or maybe if we can raise the minimum wage so this person isn't working and living out of their car, then maybe you won't have that issue. So it's amazing how the people who are pro this, they want to fix the issue, but they're not acknowledging the disparity of wealth and the wealth gap that's happened over all these years. So you come across a thing where like Biden goes, hey, let's forgive some student loans. And then they flip it around and they go, what? You can forgive student loans? How dare you? That's a very elitist thing to do. What about the truck drivers? Don't forgive student loans. And then a bunch of people are like, oh, it's just about to be able to afford my rent. And so I think that it's a constantly moving thing. And obviously, a lot of it is the way that it's portrayed. The idea that we keep hearing that people go, "Oh my God, crime," but then you keep hearing that, "Oh, actually, crime statistics show that it's been going down." Right. And again, crime is another perfect example. If you don't want someone like my grandfather used to say, "I understand the guy who's committing the crime because that person is trying to feed themselves." And if we were to maybe put some more resources in the communities that would give these people going through these communities an option that's not crime, I'm sure they would choose it. So,
yes. So well said, explaining all of how we should think about complex problems, but that we don't. The other thing I know I wanted to ask you just about your special is you spent a lot of time on COVID and vaccines, and God, it's hilarious. You just are so good at identifying the things that we all go through and telling them back to us. And it's so funny. Everybody has to watch The Birds and the Bees on YouTube. And if you don't, I think you'll get COVID. The worst kind of. I think if you don't watch the special, you're destined to get long COVID. But my question to you is, having had all that material in there and talk about the vaccines and been really supportive of them, I think it's fair to say, other than creating a hierarchy between each pharmaceutical company, which was hilarious. You got the Johnson & Johnson, you got the Moderna.
My dog wants to get away. What are you doing? We're talking, hey, Yasu, stop. I got a mini golden doodle, and she sounds a lot tougher than she is.
You also talk a lot about that dog in the comedy special, which is really funny too. But my question is, did you get when your specials on YouTube, did you get criticism, attacked, threats because of your stance on vaccines? What did you hear about that?
It's funny because to me, it's pretty logical. Even my friends who were right leaning, they all got the vaccine. Like, they were all educated. So they all were like, I'm getting it for the most part. But it was funny because once it comes out, the beauty of having it on YouTube is people can interact with you. If it's on Netflix, I'm not necessarily getting emails or comments under it because it's on Netflix. Right. When it's on YouTube, you can read the comments. So I started early on going on there and responding to comments with, like, just to keep the engagement going. Once in a while, people leave you what's called a super thanks, which is like a tip. I was like, that's great. I'm getting tipped. So those people in particular, I was like, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Or somebody would say something nice. Thank you. But then the crazies started coming in. There was a couple people who were like, I was enjoying it until you started talking about the vaccines. You sheep. And I'm like, what? Come on, dude.
You are a sheep, though. You're a bit of a sheep.
Yeah, I am a sheep. That's true. But it's weird.
Was there a lot of that? Did it affect anything? Are you just talking about a few comments? Even doing the material, I'm sure on the run up, did people in the audience, did you divide the audience by coming out and talking about vaccines in a supportive way?
I've learned I've become pretty good at.
I heard somebody threw a bag of syringes at your face one night.
Syringes one night. It was great. It was all
microchips. That joke.
It was all AstraZeneca, and it was microchips. And the chip says, no, I've gotten pretty good at, in 25 years, I've learned how to present a subject to an audience that might not be as into it. And then, of course, also how to get out of it fast. So give you an example. So in a lot of my stand-up, as you saw in the special, when I'm getting into a subject, I'll ask people if they've experienced something. So maybe I'll say, oh, I got my shot. Hey, did you get your shot? Which shot did you get? And I'll start going that way. So in LA, when I would do that, it was during the pandemic, and I would ask somebody, oh, you guys get your shots? And as I went down the line of people in the front row or whatever it is, most people were like, yeah, I got this. I got the Astra, I got the Pfizer, I got the this, Moderna, blah, blah, blah. I did it in Dallas one time because the touring started again. I was in Dallas and I was like, did you get your shot? And the guy looked at me and shakes his head. I go, oh, okay. And I go to the next guy, did you get your shot? They go, no. And the next guy,
boy.
Like half the crowd hadn't got their shots. And I was like, I'm in Dallas. I go, for those of you who decided to get your shots, I go, no judgment here. It's like I avoided the cuckoo within waking up in someone, because if you call them an idiot out the gate, then they're going to come back and be like,
you're so good at any audience, anywhere, which brings me, and I almost always have to bring it up, to Aspen Ideas Fest, where we did stand up, and you just brought the house down, and including all the billionaires, with your joke about your child being kidnapped in Aspen. And do you know how often I refer to that joke? And did you ever do that joke anywhere else, or was it just that night in Aspen?
That's very funny that you asked that. Yeah, I've tried that joke in other places a few times, and is not to do the joke, but to tell the story of the joke. The joke came about because we were at the Aspen Institute Festival, where it's all these billionaires, and my daughter at the time was maybe 4 years old.
Yeah, she was
and
little.
My son was like 6. They were little, and we're at a restaurant, and it's Aspen, so it's really just privileged place. So we're eating in the restaurant, and the kids want to play outside. There's like a playground type area outside, so they're playing outside. I can see them from the window. So we're eating, see them, look over, son's there, daughter's not. And I start freaking out. I go, oh my God, where's my daughter? And someone else at the table, we get up to go find my daughter. And now I'm starting to freak out. I'm like, did they kidnap my daughter? And then halfway through looking for her, I go, wait a minute, this is Aspen, the Aspen Idea Festival. It's a bunch of billionaires. If they kidnap my daughter, they would just give her a better life. And then I go, and then I find her and I go, oh, you got to live with me now.
So great. Such a great joke. I love it so much, but you're so good at that. Wherever you are, you deliver to what the audience likes. You're a very pleasing man. And that's, I think, my last thing I wanted to ask you about is just in the comedy world, can I call you an LA comic?
Sure. Yeah.
You really came up in California, at the comedy clubs out there. But still, you tour all over and everybody knows you. And it seems like everybody likes you. You're not a guy that has enemies or has pissed off people. And I wonder how much has changed with just attitudes. I hear a lot of things, not being in the stand-up community like I came up in for so many years. I just don't know what to believe. New York, LA, the Joe Rogan world, the men's rights guys, and all of that. Like, how much is that? Do you think about that when you go to the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory and those LA comics and you see this guy or that guy? Or even these super liberal people, is it present or does it not affect you? Or what's it like these days?
First of all, it's funny because both Mark Maron and Dom Herrera had separately said to me, they go, yeah, we think you're the nicest comedian.
You're up there.
I was like, not the funniest? I was like, yeah, that's not, I don't want to hear nicest. I want to hear funniest. So anyway, I always say there's no reason to be a dick, but I'm friends with a lot of guys on whatever side. But do I hang out with guys from every side? No, I have friends of mine the thing that's changed for me is just, first of all these younger people, like you go to a club and there's names on the list, you don't know who they are. And you're like, who's this guy? And they go, oh, this guy's doing, he's doing the crypto center, 20,000 people tomorrow. You're like, what? But there's people
that's
that
the
are
name
doing
of an arena. Yeah.
An arena. Yeah, he's doing an arena. And because of all that, I have now started to post a lot of crowd work online because you got to be online, you got to be active, and you can't post material. I realize this because what you were just talking about, the Birds and the Bees special, is material that I was developing throughout COVID, and then I put it out there. But I went to Australia. I hadn't toured in Australia in 4 years. So when I went to Australia, I thought, I can do the Birds and the Bees material because I haven't been here for 4 years. I haven't done it here. But this girl afterwards, after my show, she emailed me. She was like, I'm a fan, but a lot of the material felt repetitive. And I was like, oh my God, that's because a lot of it is online. It's on you. If she's a fan, she's seen the YouTube special. So I was like, oh gosh, I got to refrain from putting actual material online and put crowd work and social media stuff and older stuff back online. So that's one of the biggest changes is the amount of stuff you have to put online to keep people interested, to keep people coming to your shows. And then in terms of this rivalry of East, West, all that, I was in New York. I went to the Village Underground. I did a set. I hung out and watched everybody else. Some of it exists, but I think you got to buy into it. Because again, at the store, like some of the aggro guys, if they show up, if I know them, I'm talking to them. I don't care.
Guys. Perfect.
I don't care. I don't care. By the way, it's your choice to do, if you choose to go on stage and pull on transgender people, that's your choice. Do I like that material? No, but it's your choice. I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to do a joke that's going to poo on the people who are poo-pooing on transgender people. And I'm not talking about you, comedian. I'm talking about people in general.
Right.
yeah, it exists. It's out there, but it's just evolving, and it's just a part of us getting older. Thank God that we're in the age group that we're in, and we can still go on stage and talk about things that are still relevant. Imagine this, I actually ran into years ago, there was this lady who had been a regular at the Comedy Store, I think in the 80s, and then she came back in the 90s, or it must have been the early aughts that she was there, and she was an impressionist. So she was doing impressions from the 80s. So she was doing like Cher and Phyllis Diller and all these people that they're known, but they're not the impressions you've been doing. And I felt bad for her. I was like, oh my God, this poor lady. So we can talk about the democracy ending and it can still be relevant today. So that's actually a good thing for us.
I love talking to you. I appreciate all your time today. I love catching up with you. I hope we can do it more. And I hope everybody goes watch the special. And I'll plug it all on the way out. Nothing better than seeing you live, obviously. But thank you, my friend. Amazing. Love it. Love talking to you.
Thank you. If you come out to LA, let me know. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's go walk the dog and catch up, my friend.
You got it, bud. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
All right. What do you think? Maz Jobrani, everybody. Go check him out at MazJobrani.com, and you can see him coming up in Texas and LA and Michigan, back in Texas, MazJobrani.com for all the dates. Watch that comedy special. Give him the views at YouTube, Birds and Bees. Look it up. It is definitely worth watching. I highly recommend all of his stuff. Great guy. I'm so happy to have him back here on the show. All right, that's all I've got for you today. I hope to see you tonight at the Hangout, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Of course, as always, tell your friends, write a review for this podcast on Spotify and iTunes. And if you're not already a paid subscriber, what do you wait? And follow our patreon.com/PeteDominic right now. John Carroll taking us out today and every day. JohnCarroll.org. Go buy this song and everything else. Support him. Take it away, Johnny.
Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know us right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up now. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We got to let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right. We got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it than now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says